Good morning and welcome to the Red Ned Show, where it's always morning, even in the afternoon. I am your host, Jay Edgar, and I'm joined once again on the other side of the screen, welcoming back our wonderful co-hostess, Elaine. Welcome back.
Hi.
It has been a while, hasn't it?
It's been over a month.
Huh? How was your time off, if you can even call it that at this point?
It was less time off than I was hoping for, but that's okay.
Yeah, how was the campaign trail?
Crazy. As expected.
Yeah, any good stories or anything from the last little bits, the parties or anything?
Not really. I mean, everything came together in the end and it ended up being a great party and I think everybody had a good time. So yeah, it was good.
Well,
That was my first time. That was my first time ever being in Texas, actually, in Dallas. I had one layover in Dallas before, but I'd never actually been outside of the airport. So that was my first trip to Texas. That was cool.
how is Texas this time of year? Is it exciting?
I mean, Dallas was still kind of locked down for COVID. And of course, we had our party in the same hotel where we were staying, so there wasn't a whole lot of reasons to leave and go explore Dallas. We didn't have a lot of time. Most people were only in town for 48 hours. Um, so it was like sweatshirt weather in the morning and in the evening, but during the day it was really pleasant outside. I mean, weather-wise, it was really great. So, yeah, no complaints.
Yeah. Maybe one day I will get down there myself. My dream is to hang out with everybody who carries the Freedom Scoop ice cream cone in 2021, if we're out of worldwide timeout at least by that point. So I know that I've got one of our members, our wonderful Wyatt Birkenhoff, lives in Houston, so that would take me down there. I just don't know what happens when I try to enter California for the
Bad
Freckles and Brit
things.
show. Because as Britt is very proud to point out the fact she lives pretty much just outside of Los Angeles. Dangerous places for liberty-minded people.
Right. All the libertarian sleepers.
Well, we have got a ton to get to today. I mean, this was, even for a short news week, this was a crazy week. We don't even know everything that's going to be happening out here, but we can come out and successfully say the Cracken has been released. How much of a
Yes.
splash it has made has yet to be seen. And I've got the PDF up here. We'll look a little bit at the beginning of that. And I've been paging through it throughout the day here. So, yeah, it's about what you would expect. And honestly, it's got conspiracy theory written all over it. But if any of this is true, then this could change the way that we look at elections in this country. And I mean, if any of this is true, who's to say that Dr. Jorgensen might have not gotten an even bigger share of the vote coming out of this year? Coming up, I was thinking about that today. I'm like, if they have to go back and throw out a bunch of Joe Biden's votes because of the Dominion thing, that could bring Dr. Jorgensen, I mean, possibly all the way up to 2%.
Yeah, we have seen her vote total go up.
Yeah.
It's nearing 2 million if it hasn't gotten to 2 million quite yet. I'm actually gonna look and see. Last time I looked, it was at like 1.85.
Well, while you're looking that up here, we'll look a little bit more into the preview here. Looks like a couple states have been shaken up as we go along here. The General Services Administration has begun to transfer power, or at least let people in on the documents. So we'll talk about that. Wisconsin is going into legal challenges. This is breaking today, so I don't even have any news articles up to talk about this, but we'll go over a little bit of what I've heard on the radio so far today, and it's been minuscule, but think they've got something over here. Everybody's eyes are on the runoffs in Georgia, and we'll talk a bit about how people are trying to manipulate the way the runoffs go. Further on here, COVID was this week, so we'll talk a bit about all of the Thanksgiving lockdowns and some of the other fun stuff that's going along with that, including an article that I got from you with an interesting quote coming up off the top. So we'll talk a bit about what's going on there. Biden's transfer is possibly going into place, and Trump is doing exactly what we thought that he would do. The swamp is
Throw
being
a temper
filled.
tantrum?
What's that?
Throw a temper tantrum?
Well, I was going to go with pardon everybody you possibly could, but that too. The sewage truck is backing up to the swamp to fill it back up, too. We'll talk a little bit about the cabinet picks and what people are talking about with them. And lastly, Ghislaine Maxwell is back in the news just a little bit this year. Nobody's talking about it, surprisingly. So we'll talk a bit about what's going on there. And I've got a twofer of surprise stupidity for you at the end of the day, including one I held over from last week because it was so godforsakenly cringy, I had to share it.
Okay.
It's going to be all of this and more over on the Red and Ed Show. Thanks for checking us out over on YouTube, DLive, Twitch, Periscope, and Facebook. And if you're over on Facebook, get into one of those links above you and head on over to one of the main channels so we can check your chat. We read chat between topics here. And head on over to the Freedom Scoop Media Group where you can check out other great shows like The Breakdown with Birkenhoff, The Freckles and Brit Show, The Generational Gap, The R-Rated Conservative, and The Daily Ignoramus. And lastly, we want to do one more inclusion here from our co-hostess own business here. We want to feature her out here, so head on over and check out Gun Mom Fashion. Go over there and check out that website, gunmomfashion.com. You want to give a little introduction to that over there?
Yeah, I decided earlier this year to start designing some t-shirts and other products, mostly because I felt like when I would go to a lot of the libertarian t-shirt stores, I didn't see anything that I really liked. Some of the designs were cute, but then I wouldn't like the fit or the cut of the t-shirts, or vice versa. I would really like the cut of the t-shirt, but it would be way too expensive, or I didn't like the design that it came with. So I decided to design my own, and I kind of wanted it to be like Liberty apparel, but stuff that looks like you bought it at Target. So that's kind of the style, and that's what I was going for. And everything is very affordable. I don't think that there's anything in the store that's over $30. If there is, it's a sweatshirt or something like that. But for the most part, everything you could get a t-shirt for 20 bucks. So that's what I did.
Yeah, go over there and check that out. Pick up some of your T-shirts there. I think I want to be picking a couple up to wear on Contemporary in the morning because I kind of like that targety design where it feels like a regular T-shirt and it kind of looks a little bit vintage. So definitely be doing that. Everybody go over there and check that out. Definitely. All right. Looks like we got Silent Caster and the Breakdown with Birkenhoff over in the chat. We were just talking about you, Wyatt, over here, and the fact that I may be going down and seeing Texas, and our lovely co-hostess was just in Texas, so you missed that chat here. But let's we got to do a little bit of cleanup here first, because there are a couple things to clean up with all of this. Going back to the beginning, starting with the Durham probe. So, reading briefly here from the Daily Wire, Devin Nunes calls for a special counsel to take over the probe of Russia investigation. Over growing concern, Biden may shut it down. Now, this is in stark contrast to the fact that not that long ago, we heard Kamala Harris say that she possibly wanted to start a probe into the Durham probe, which means that would be, see if you can keep up here, an investigation into an investigation into an investigation. What do you have to say on that one?
There's there's so much probing. I can make so many jokes.
Well, the government does probe all of us, don't they?
One way or another.
I can't decide whether or not it's a good thing that the Durham probe is even going on at this point. But I mean, to protect the work that's already going on here, I mean, I'd like to see what happened and why the.
They're basically afraid that they're basically afraid that Biden is going to do the exact same thing that Donald Trump did, which is obstruct justice, which is why they want to put together this special counsel before Trump leaves office. Of
Well,
course, that doesn't mean, as noted in the article, it doesn't mean that Joe Biden can't fire the special counsel, but they're, I think, hoping that if they get one set up, that he'll just leave it alone and let it do its thing. I don't know that I believe that.
yeah, I don't know. And I don't think Joe Biden would be calling the shots either way. I really don't.
No.
Come on, man.
Maybe
So
Jill Biden, though. I'm very interested to see how involved Jill Biden is as First Lady.
they are making a big deal about her, aren't they?
Hmm.
They're making a
Yeah,
massive
because
deal about her.
Melania has been seen as like this very kind of cold and hands-off kind of First Lady. Like there's not a lot of like warm fuzzies about Melania outside of like the far right. Um, I like her.
Yeah.
I was when those Melania tapes leaked a couple of months ago, I listened and I was just like, wow, yeah, this woman has a lot of pent-up rage inside of her, and I totally get it.
Well, and it's I don't understand what the big deal is with the first lady on all of this here. I mean, it's they're making Jill Biden's office sound like there's an actual office of the first lady, and it's I mean,
There is an actual office of the First Lady.
is there? I was unaware of that.
Yeah, the office of the First Lady is its own office. She has her own staff. It's much smaller than the president's staff,
Right.
obviously. But it's separate from like the White House staff. It's her own staff. So she gets her own like assistant, her own press secretary, like those kinds of things. Um, and after they leave office, first ladies are actually paid for the rest of their lives, just like their husbands are.
That's interesting. So you get a paycheck and authority for banging the right guy, much like Kamala did.
Yeah, it's very minuscule. I mean, I think the president gets like 210,000 a year or something like that, or 220,000 a year as a pension for the rest of their lives, not to mention healthcare and um, Secret Service and things like that. But the first lady also gets a pension, and I think it's like $20,000 or something like that. It's between 20 and 30. So a first couple that leaves the office, president and first lady, they basically get $250,000 for the rest of their lives.
Wow, that sounds uncomfortable.
I know, right? It's terrible.
All right, moving on here. Penguin Random House staff confront publisher about new Jordan Peterson book, which I'm going to be completely honest, I own the first 12 Rules for Life, but I've never read it. I never have time to sit down and read it.
I haven't honestly paid that much attention to Jordan Peterson, like ever.
Yeah.
Someone did suggest that I watch an episode of his show yesterday, and it was one of the ones that he did with Russell Brand, where they were talking about um, trauma and how that plays into drug use and the drug war and different things like that. That sounded interesting to me, but I had not gone back and watched it. So Jordan Peterson is still very much a mystery to me.
Yeah.
Um,
I
Part of
like
me
his
wants to be
lectures.
like, I don't see what the big deal is about him because I feel like he's another person that's from that like Stefan Molyneux group, like that kind of
The
guy.
internet, intellectual dark web is what they call it.
The what?
The intellectual dark web. I'm not
That's pretty
joking.
accurate.
They're proud of that.
That's pretty accurate. So I kind of just sort of dismissed him out of hand because of that. Because if you consider Molyneux a contemporary of yourself, then I probably am not going to agree with you on very many things. Um,
Well, he
yeah.
gained notoriety for the fact that he didn't feel it was right to be compelled to use gender pronouns, was pretty much where he came into the spotlight. And then he started doing the book tour and the self help books and the psych lectures. His psych lectures are good. I like those. I
Mhm.
think he's done some really stupid things in his career, but I do like his psych lectures. The biblical series that he did was second to none.
Yeah, I don't know much about that. And as far as not being compelled to use pronouns, I mean, fine,
Yeah,
but you also don't get to decide whether or not that is hurtful to someone else either.
that's fair. And I mean, that's a big part of what came with this here. I mean, the employees
Hmm.
at Penguin were crying because Penguin was going to be publishing this book. One of the quotes that came here from the
It's
Vice
a
article.
business decision.
Yeah, he is an icon of hate speech and transphobia, and the fact that he's an icon of white supremacy, which I've listened to his lectures and I've never heard any white supremacist
Okay.
rhetoric from him, um, Regardless of the content of his book, I'm not proud to work for a company that publishes him, a junior employee who is a member of the LGBTQ community and who attended the town hall, told Vice World News. Well,
It's
I'm
not
sure you
like
can go
there's
work
only
somewhere
one
else.
publishing house in the entire world that you could work for. I mean,
Yeah.
if you disagree that strongly, then go find another job with a company that more aligns with your values. I hate to say that because I'm not a proponent of more partisanship, but there are so many people in the world that literally do not know how to function when someone disagrees with them
Yes.
that they're too far gone. Like I can't change that for them.
Yeah, that's pretty much about what it is too. And these people are so used to getting everything that they want, and I have likened this to the divorce epidemic that happened in the generation that raised us, where people were going between mom and dad's house, and then mom and dad were buying them extravagant gifts and giving them their way in hopes that they would turn on the other. I saw a
Yep.
lot of this where I grew up. I don't know how it was with around you, but
Hmm.
I saw a ton of that where I grew up.
Yes, and I have friends that have experienced that that are parents now that are my age,
Hmm.
where their ex uses their child basically as a bargaining chip and a
Hmm.
tool. They use the child as a tool to get back at the other parent, either financially or with custody or emotionally or whatever. It's just it honestly, it's another form of abuse, and I hate it.
All right. Let's keep going with this here. From Politico, Dianne Feinstein to step down as Democrat on the Senate Judiciary panel because she pissed everybody in the world off when she came up and gave Lindsey Graham a hug. Senator Dianne Feinstein plans to step down as the top Democrat on the Senate Judiciary Committee in the next Congress after facing blowback from progressives for her handling of Amy Coney Barrett's contentious Supreme Court confirmation hearing. I watched the same hearing as you did. I didn't realize that was contentious.
I mean, it definitely was not as contentious as Kavanaugh.
That is a fair point.
I think probably because other people were so distracted by what was going on with the election that they were trying to focus on other things. So, and honestly, she hasn't been. I don't know. I don't feel like she's that controversial.
No, she really isn't.
She wasn't. Kavanaugh was. He definitely had some. He was definitely a little problematic in certain ways, but um, yeah, I don't feel like she's problematic in the same ways that he was. And also, I think there were lots of distractions, COVID and the election and all of that, Biden's health, Trump's health for that matter. I mean, he tested positive for COVID not long after that, I think.
Hey, I've got the
Um,
greatest health, okay? I have the best health, and I'm going to put out the best vaccine.
Bad in Georgia.
God damn
They don't
autoplay.
want.
Fuck
so,
you, Fox.
yeah, I didn't realize it was that contentious, but honestly, it just proves what libertarians always say is that it's a big club and we're not in it.
Yeah.
That's it. It doesn't matter whether they're Republican or Democrat. It's a big club and we don't belong to it. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah, that is true.
They're all friends.
Yeah,
They're all
that's the big
friends
one.
and colleagues. I mean, at the very least, you have to have some kind of like professional decorum towards someone that you disagree with when you have to work with them because you do have to remember this is a working environment. You know, they do have to go to the office every day and work with people that are not on their side ideologically. I mean, um, they still have to sit in these meetings, have committee meetings with these other members and things like that. And their lines of questioning might be different. Um, but I've sat in on those kind of hearings at the state level,
Hmm.
and it's the same way. I mean, they have different lines of questioning and they do disagree with each other. But if you go upstairs afterwards and walk around to their different offices and stuff like that, like I used to do when I would lobby, all their staff are friends. They're friends. They pop into each other's offices. They have coffee together. They have lunch together, just like any other office building, like just like any other, group of people who have to have professional relationships. It's the same. It really is.
Well, I know the already conservative likens it to the WWE. And I
Hmm.
mean, that's even back when the WWE was massive. And, you think back to, and I might be dating myself when I say this here, the big feud between Stone Cold Steve Austin and Triple H, like You sit on the
Hmm.
stage and you watch it. Those two were ready to fucking kill each other if you listen to the script. And then you
You
go into the
thought that they
locker
were,
room
but again, it was script.
and you go into the locker room and they're snapping towels at each other's asses.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, and I think that there is a lot of this too when we look at some of these hearings where they're doing this for show for their bases, and then they're going to the same bars and drinking with each other.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think I said this on Twitter at one point. I think I said it about Kamala specifically, or Kamala. I always pronounce her name wrong, and I try not to, but it's just ingrained in my head. Um, I think I said it about her specifically, like how much of a dog and pony show was she going to make that hearing because she was campaigning and that she would continue to campaign during the
Oh
hearing
yeah,
and use it as a campaign
she's done
tool.
nothing
That's
but
what all of
campaign.
them did. All of them needed clips for commercials and not their own commercials. They needed clips for all the super PACs out there that they're not allowed to coordinate with to get footage because it falls under common use copyright.
Hmm.
So these super PACs can take this footage from C-SPAN or whatever, chop it all up, turn it into a video, and the candidate doesn't have to pay for it or anything because the PAC covers it. They have fair use usage of that footage. I mean, it's just like that's how they do it.
And then we have to spend 3 years listening to the same clip of Kamala over and over again.
Right.
Who'd you talk to?
Hmm.
All right.
Exactly.
Well, let's keep going on the light. This is the least lightning round I've done so far. Trump says coronavirus vaccine deliveries will start next week. Not taking it.
No, I'm not taking it either. I'll give it like 3 or 4 years and then I'll take it.
And I've got a friend she's an RN, and her and I were talking about this the other night, and she said the same thing. She's like, all the doctors around my hospital, and this is like a Chicago hospital, so this is ultra left hospital on top of it. Yeah, none of the doctors are going to take it. There's no way that you're going to tell people to take a vaccine that's had less than a year of testing time.
Mm-mm. Yeah, and I think there was an article that I read earlier this week, and I can't remember if I sent it to you or not, but that the Moderna vaccine was created in like 2 days.
Yeah,
They like plugged it into a computer system and made some tweaks and like ran a program, and then it was like, here's a vaccine for you. And it took like 2 days,
yeah, I trust that.
right?
And it's the thing of it is, and it comes out. I think it's very, very suspicious that the 90+% effective vaccines came out after all the AP and everybody else started calling this President elect Biden's race.
Hmm.
That set off every single tinfoil sensor in my head. Every last one of them.
I don't have very many tinfoil sensors. I'm not a conspiracy theorist.
That's gotta strike you as a little bit fishy at least.
Yeah, it does.
So we'll start seeing that coming out this week here. I got one here from the Blaze, going back to the Hunter Biden story here. Computer repairman at the center of Biden laptop scandal closes shop, disappears amid purported death threats. So, according to his neighbors,
Witness protection.
according to his neighbors, his shop is boarded up, his house is empty, he hasn't been home in days, and he's just disappeared.
Yeah, they've put him under protective custody probably.
I didn't think about that when I read this the first time on Contemporary, but that does make sense. I'd figure that he just went to
He
Mexico
would
or something.
be he would be very valuable to Biden's enemies, aka Trump and the GOP.
I have the best friends. I'll take my MacBook over to this guy. I'll let him look at it, okay? A little bit of foreign news from NPR, which I'm not going to read NPR like this because I don't want anybody listening while driving to fall asleep. 6 U.S. Citgo executives convicted and sentenced in Venezuela. So this has been an ongoing story that I just heard about this past week, but I guess Gustavo Cardenas, Jorge Toledo, Jose Luis Zambrano, and Alirio Zambrano and Tomu Vadel, all U.S. citizens, were sentenced to 8 years and 10 months Jose Pereira, a permanent resident of the U.S., received 13 years for embezzlement in Venezuela from Citgo from the oil. And I can't believe I never knew this happened. They've been down there for like 6 years. They've been being held.
Interesting. Hmm. Yeah, I didn't know about it. I hadn't heard anything about it.
It came across my radar one morning. Because I sit down when I do contemporary and I just read all the articles from the Daily Wire and then I go search for corroborating stuff because, I
Yeah,
mean, the Daily Wire has an agenda and we know it does, but I go out and look for
because
corroborating
it's the
stuff.
Daily Wire.
Hey, you know what? Buy my birch gold and visit my website, okay? But I mean, this is insane with the fact, and I don't know if this is persecution. This is Venezuela after all, and Nicolas Maduro is not a very kind person. So, but yes, there's no extradition. They're probably going to die in prison down there, given what we know about Venezuela. So we'll pour out some Fs for these executives. You remember Ken Jennings?
Yes.
Ken Jennings is slammed as an old tweet saying nothing sadder than a hot person in a wheelchair reemerges just days after he's named as stand-in following the death of Alex Trebek.
Ooh, that's cringy.
Uh, Ken Jennings, the
Yikes.
Jeopardy record holder, will be a guest hosting the show following the death of Alex Trebek, has sparked outrage over a resurfaced tweet that he posted. How long ago do you think this one was?
5 years.
6 years ago. He
Okay,
posted
I
a
was
tweet.
close.
Nothing sadder than a hot person in a wheelchair, Jennings, 46, wrote.
Wow. That's cringy. That's really cringy.
That is cringy. And given the fact that this is in the lightning round and not at the end of the show, means that I have something worse for you later on.
Oh no, what will we do?
So, yes, at this point, looks like he is still going to be guest hosting Jeopardy until they find a new permanent host, which some names have circulated around here. But a lot of people are still outraged because they have to go back and dig through every fucking thing in the world every time somebody comes to something prominent. Ah, this California license plate story is just ridiculousness. I had to
Okay,
share
tell
this one.
me.
Um, Out of ABC 7 News, vanity license plate rejected by California DMV gets a second chance after a court ruling. Some guy wanted to put queer on his license plate. The DMV said no, so he took it to court, and now he can put queer on his license plate.
I'm really surprised that that had not been tried before. Or
Uh,
maybe it has and they just said no in the past and the person never made a big deal out of it. But I really can't believe that this is the first time that someone has tried this in California of all states.
yeah, I know. Well, they gave a list of other ones that are possibly going to get a second hearing. Zin Red, due to possible gang association. GR Dead, as in Grateful Dead, and KNYFPLZ, which I wasn't sure what that would have meant here. That was a request made by a surgeon. But there were a few that didn't make the cut as well. CANBIZ is rejected because of drug reference. INURFACE and MEANN to U, both rejected for being threatening, aggressive, or hostile. THGLIFE rejected for gang affiliation.
Hmm.
CATKILA also too aggressive for DMV standards. And lastly, COVID 19 and several other coronavirus related plates were rejected because it puzzlingly looks or sounds like a swear word.
What?
That's what the court filing said.
What swear
I
word?
don't know. I've been trying to figure that out since last Wednesday.
That's insane.
The Yang Gang is back in, proving once again that Andrew Yang really only has one trick. And this one is a video submission. Let's hear what Andrew Yang has to say.
We all know that it's vital that a critical mass of Americans get vaccinated so we can return to some degree of normalcy, but we also know that there's a lot of skepticism. So we should put our money where our mouth is and say, look, if you get the vaccine, we'll give you $1,000, $1,500. We should be putting money into people's hands right now, Boris, because we're asking more and more folks to stay home and stay out of their places of employment because coronavirus infection rates are increasing. So we should be sending money to people right now, but certainly we should be putting our money where our mouth is where these vaccinations are concerned.
More free stuff.
Free money, free money, free money. Like, I mean, where does it come from, Andrew?
Oh,
Where?
we'll
Are we
just
just printing more of it?
pretty much.
God, I can't with him.
Well, with that, I will give you one that gives you hope, and then we will move on into the news. So, from News 4SA, I'm guessing this is out of San Antonio. Austin baby born at 24 weeks heads home in time for Thanksgiving.
Aww.
A Central Texas family is counting their blessings. Their extremely premature baby is home from the hospital just in time for Thanksgiving. Kinsley Allen was born in early August at just 24 weeks. Her mom, Tiffany, went to the hospital with severe headache but ended up staying for days. I didn't even pack any clothes or anything. I just thought they were going to give me some medicine and send me on my way, Allen says. Doctors determined both mom and baby's lives were in danger and Kinsley needed to be delivered much sooner than expected. 24 weeks. That throws a lot of the pro-choice narrative into question.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but it's likely an outlier. I mean,
Yeah, oh yeah.
that is definitely very, very early. That's barely half term. Barely.
Yeah, actually, I had to ask, because I read about this on Thanksgiving morning but when I did the call-in show, but I read about this, and then I went back and I asked my mom and my sister what a
Mhm.
normal term is, and they both said 40 weeks. I didn't know. I don't have any kids.
Yeah. hmm 40 weeks. You're you can the baby's considered full term at 38 weeks. So 38 to 40 weeks is like just putting on a last little bit of weight usually. But up to 38 weeks, that's the point where they say that the lungs are developed, they won't have trouble breathing anymore, all that kind of stuff. So if your baby's born at 38 weeks, they're still considered a full term baby, not preterm. Um, any earlier than that, and there could be issues. So yeah, this baby was definitely born extremely early.
Well, and I don't know. I know that one of the women that babysat me when my sister and I were kids, she, and I don't remember what the term was. I meant to ask my dad about that because I know he would have remembered, but she went into labor violently early, like to the point of had to be airlifted to Mayo and barely survived herself. But of course, she smoked through the entire pregnancy, so
hmm
there were problems there as well. But yeah, I know
Yeah.
her daughter just turned 25.
Wow.
So we thought we were going to lose both of them in that process, but they both survived, and they're both doing well at this point. So, and we
I had a
hope.
Thanksgiving baby too.
Oh,
I'm not a Thanksgiving baby. I am a Christmas baby or a New Year's baby, I guess. I'm the 29th of December. But my son was born um, in 2012. He was born on Sunday, and Thanksgiving was that Thursday. And he was overdue. So I was past my due date with him when he finally made his arrival. But yeah, I was so glad I was not in the hospital for Thanksgiving. So I can definitely commiserate on that.
I was born in the spring, April 30th. All right, I think we should check in and see what the live chat is saying, and then I think it's going to be time for us to get into this fun little shit show that we've got going on here for the week. So, you want to carry us through that?
I'm actually not logged into the chat.
Oh, well, then I guess I'll have to go in and check that out. We've got Silent Caster rather, and Wyatt from the Breakdown with Birkenhoff in here. Harvey McLeod is in saying yeehaw. Harvey McLeod is also glad she's not the only dirty mind in here because we were talking about how many different ways the government can probe you. Woke Pasta says, notice how there's no specialists in logistics in these hearings. Yeah, there's.
Yes.
Silent Caster says, just go back to sleep. There's nothing to see here. Post Jazz says, you wouldn't be so negative about tinfoil hats if you saw how nice mine is. Find my Instagram. I want pictures of that. I want to see your tinfoil hat because of that. Harvey's got an interesting one on Ben Shapiro. She says, I can't listen to Ben Shapiro as often as I used to. I really just want to hold his head over a toilet most of the time. I liked Ben Shapiro.
Over or in?
What's that?
Over the toilet or in the toilet?
I guess I didn't ask. You know, I had a dream the other night. I think you saw this in the Freedom Scoop Discord, but I had a dream the other night that Jake and I were signing the paperwork to put the Daily Wire out of business. And I woke up a very, very happy person. And
I did not see that.
I'm a big Daily Wire fan. Or
That is random.
I used to be.
I don't dream that often.
I used to be a big Daily Wire fan, but after they brought Candace Owens on, I realized just how much of a fucking grift they really are. They are a horrible grift, and Candace Owens is the fucking worst. I can't stand Candace Owens. She's not a conservative. She's a leftist that votes Republican, and she will dox you to prove it.
Yes.
Silent Caster says he was being a warmonger in today's show. Come on, spoilers. I haven't listened to it yet. Let's see. 12 out of 12 is the last one. 12/12. I think that's Harvey's birthday. 12/12. Because she was talking about, or we were talking about that. So that's what we've got with the chat here. So let's talk about the Cracken.
Okay. It's a bombshell if it's true.
Yeah. Have you? No, you said you hadn't read into any of this yet at all. You hadn't seen the PDF.
I had not read into it. I started looking at it when you said that you had posted it. So I opened it up and I'm about through page 14 now. But basically it centers around this this voting machine or software called Smartmatic. And the accusation is that Smartmatic is an electoral management software system that was developed for Venezuela to make sure that Hugo Chavez never lost an election. And that it's basically old-fashioned ballot box stuffing, but as a software instead of manually stuffing ballots into a ballot box, because obviously we don't do that anymore. So it says that one of the core requirements of the software design was that it had the ability to hide its manipulations of votes from any audit. So untraceable audits in this software. And apparently Chavez was most insistent that the design would be undertaken in a way that the system could change the vote of each voter without being detected.
Which, once again, I mean, if any of this is true, we've been being lied to about our elections for a very, very long time.
Right. In that case, it becomes less of a question of, was this election tampered with, but how many other elections have been tampered with? And if software like this exists, is it possible for our country going forward to ever have a legitimate election? Like ever again? Like, can we ever have a legitimate election again as long as this software exists?
I mean, that would go back to hand count paper ballots every single election if we got to that point,
Right.
Which, I mean, I've heard a lot of people suggest that already. Tim Pool is a big advocate for doing that, and I can't disagree with him at this point with everything else that we've seen.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to go to having to have your ID checked, having to match your signature, having to be monitored when you're voting manually, as in with a paper ballot, or potentially blockchain. We could do blockchain voting. Um, but I don't know that I don't know that there's anything being developed for blockchain voting yet. So we would be potentially years away from having that.
Yeah. And I mean, we've already seen what happens when they change election technology right at the last minute. That's what the mail-in voting
Mhm.
thing was the
Right.
change of election technology at the last minute.
Hmm. Yeah, because they didn't have any other choice.
But it would explain away a couple of the other things too. Do you remember the Pennsylvania vote counts on election night? The images
Hmm.
that were going around there, where suddenly a bunch of votes disappeared from Jorgensen, and then all of a sudden appeared
Yes.
in Don
The
and
Biden
Joe's.
column.
Well, both of them,
Yeah.
but still, yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, I looked at the current vote total, like we talked about,
Hmm.
and she's pushing 1.9 million votes. It's at like 1.89 is what it's at now.
Hmm.
I don't expect it to change that much. I don't expect it to change enough to get to 2 million. But some of us that worked the campaign, that was like our personal goal for the campaign was to get 2 million votes. So we got really close,
Yeah.
which is good.
But just the sheer volume of this, and I mean, looking at all of this too, there are some things that I can't believe about this election. And the big one for me, and you piss the left off at this point if you even question this particular election. Mind you, they spent the last 4 years questioning the last one, but it's not just the fact that they're telling you just to accept it. They're getting to the point that they're getting mad about this when there are things out there that just don't math. And the big one for me is, I mean, I heard the chants throughout the summer. You heard the chants too. I don't want to vote for Joe Biden. Please don't make me vote for Joe Biden. And yet, this demented old man that never got out of his basement set a record for popular vote in this country over Barack Obama and set new records in Detroit, Philadelphia, and Atlanta, all predominantly black neighborhoods. Do those statistics add up to you?
No, no, not at all.
I mean, it's possible. Trump was a largely unlikable candidate. He absolutely was.
Yes, absolutely. And it got worse after that first debate. Um, Joe got more popular
Hmm.
with voters outside the Libertarian Party after that first debate, and Trump got less popular. And Biden, I think, just kind of was the same.
Yeah.
People were still just like, meh, I have to vote for him because I'm a Democrat, but I'm not really happy about it, but I'm still going to do it.
But 80 million votes when they're chanting that in the streets, that doesn't math to me. I don't know what I don't know why I can't get my head to wrap around those numbers, but I can't. I can't accept that without at least questioning it, but they'll get mad at you if you question it.
Hmm.
Do you think looking through, and you are actually one page further than I am at this point for the deep read. I've been paging through it further, but just taking little snippets. But as far as the deep read, you're on page 14, I'm on page 13. Do you think there is anything here?
I would like to see this fully investigated. Is there something here? I don't know because I am not familiar with software systems like this. That is so far outside my wheelhouse that I can't imagine. So I think, I think it is possible. I think it's very possible, especially knowing what I know about what happened with Cambridge Analytica in 2016.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the way that they use that data, I am familiar with how data can be manipulated, um, and the kind of psychological pressure that it takes to sway voters because of that. So I definitely think it's possible that I think it's possible that so many people were so afraid of a Trump second term, they were willing to vote for whoever the establishment told them to vote for. Um, So I don't think that those 80 million votes were so much votes for Joe Biden as they were votes against Trump.
Mm-hmm. And I know that there were a lot of those, just like there were in 2016, where there were a lot of votes against Hillary. I
Mhm.
do contend the fact that Donald Trump is sitting in the White House right now because votes against Hillary. I can't even
Right.
question that one. But one thing I do want to point out to this, and I mean, this has been controversy on Twitter for a while, and Twitter is suppressing the PDF link. I was actually very impressed that I was able to find this PDF link to go with this. But they've been more focusing on the spelling errors. Did you catch any of that as you've been going in here? If not, I've got
I
the top page
haven't-
up here on the screen right now. But in the United
I have
States,
not I have not been reading for spelling errors, and I'm a former newspaper editor from like way back in high school and college. So my brain, when I read really quickly, tends to autocorrect things
yep.
as I go. I have to read something two or three times before I'm like, oh, there is so many spelling errors here.
Well, pop up to the top page there and have a look at the opening line and see what you see. Same word twice in the same sentence. And I've got it up on the screen there too. This is what most people who've been criticizing this report have been picking apart since this got released on Friday.
The nature of the action.
No, the top line. In the United States District Court, Northern District of Georgia, or whatever the hell that word is,
Oh,
at the beginning of
okay.
the second line.
That is, I mean, this paperwork would have been generated by Georgia, not by the Trump campaign. So I don't know what the deal is with that.
Yeah, I don't. Actually, I didn't know that, actually. I thought that would have been generated by, not the Trump campaign, but by Sidney Powell. But that's what
Oh,
everyone's
maybe
revoking.
maybe it is. Maybe it is. This isn't like court recording stuff. That's what I was thinking. But no.
And the only way that I can really Occam's razor this away is that there is a time crunch on this particular case because the electors meet in just a couple weeks. So they probably didn't look to this and, okay, let's go and spell check this right away, is what I'm guessing happened. But DISTRCOICT for those listening back on the audio platform, which I promise I'm going to catch back up on. I don't know what that word is. Well, I know what they intended that word to be, but I do think that if you're going to turn something like this, you should at least spell check the headline. So, I don't know.
Sorry, I was answering in the chat.
Yeah, I see that.
Yeah, I mean, someone mentioned it to me earlier today, and all I had to say all I had to say about it was, at this point, I still care whether or not our election process um, is uncompromised. I care about that. But as far as the actual results of the election, there is nothing that I can do as an individual to change that.
Mm-hmm.
It's just going to be what it's going to be, and there's nothing that I can do. So, I mean, I wouldn't even know what to do. Like, what do you do other than like literally overthrow the government and say that this president is illegal? But then
I'm
at
down.
some point you have to have an election. So you have to have a redo of an election. And I mean, that would go state by state. So I do not know as an individual how to go about doing anything that has to do with that.
Yeah, I don't know either, but this is definitely something to look at. And once again, it's at this point I don't have a dog in this fight. It's either the orange spending spree or come on, man, I got hairy legs. The thought of either of these men having their hands on the nuclear football scares the ever-loving fuck out of me. You know I'm right,
Yes, I'm not disagreeing.
but it's if I can't trust my vote, what do I have left? That's been one thing that's been carrying me through the rest of this and seeing what kind of bullshit happens in the government is the fact that I believe that my vote counts. And after this, I don't know. I don't know if that's the case.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, if this software does exist, It's definitely not the only kind. It's definitely not the only software that exists to do this,
Mm-hmm.
because if one exists, there has to be more. So then it calls into question our election process overall.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, if we can get this cleaned up too, this could bring the third party into that. That's got to be appealing to you in and of itself, bringing the third party into a more fair focus of it.
Yeah, I have thoughts about 2024, but that's
Yeah.
not on our agenda today, so we'll have to cover that at another time.
Hey, I've already told people that if they get me up to 2,000 YouTube subscriptions, where YouTube is suppressing me right now, I'll run in 2024.
Don't do it.
I'll do it.
No, I don't want you to.
And I'll tell them exactly what I think about them, too. And I'll run in the GOP so I get camera time on top of it. Well, with this still going, we have questions about what's going on here, but the official transition has started here.
Mm-hmm.
And before we get into that, I want to take a second and, well, we always need a second to laugh at celebrities because they fucking suck. Alyssa Milano put this tweet out. And of course, I used your retweet of this to go with it. Alyssa Milano put this tweet out last week. I'd like to extend an olive branch to Trump supporters. I am ready to move forward together. There's so much work to do to heal this nation. Let's be part of the solution and not add to the problems we face. My comments are open for the first time in 6 fucking months. Please reply with #ForwardTogether. Capped on top by 1. Libertarian Redhead. Literally, no one believes you. Tell me about this one.
Well, I mean, do people really believe her? Because I definitely don't.
Well, you're a parent. You understand this. I've only seen this from the outside looking in, but it's like when your kid throws a temper tantrum in the grocery store, and then you give him what he wants, and then all of a sudden he calms down.
Yep.
Is this what we're seeing right here?
No, I mean, she's just virtue signaling. For what reason, I don't know, but she was perfectly happy to demonize Trump supporters, call them racist, call them white supremacists, say that they were um, enabling and perpetuating white supremacy, et cetera, et cetera. Um, None of those people have changed. Like all of those people that she was criticizing, none of them have changed. They're still the same people.
Right.
So now you want to join forces with those people that you were previously criticizing. So you're either acknowledging that your criticism of them was completely false and made up for your own purposes, or you still think they're pieces of shit, but you want to look better.
And that's the thing that I actually thought about, and, once again, this might be the tinfoil sensors going off on my head, but I was curious as to whether or not this was a trap, and all the replies that she got for this that were angry at her for what she said were what she was
Mm-hmm.
looking for, because now she can come out and say, well, these unhinged Trump supporters, look at how they're treating me.
Yeah, not only that, but there was a lot of talk right after the election of I think it was AOC, we're going to make lists of all of you Trump supporters and things like that. So it almost felt like a call out to those people.
Mm-hmm.
And if you fell for it, then you outed yourself.
I actually commented on this one. I said, I'm pretty sure this is a trap.
Yeah, it's a trap.
So, with that in mind, Alyssa Milano is ready to reach out the olive branch with this, and it seems that the Trump campaign this week has reached out the olive branch as well, at least from the transition team standpoint off of this. I'm going to read here briefly from Fox News. GSA chief informs President-elect Biden that formal transition process can begin. This was on November 23rd, which I believe was Monday this past week, was it not?
Yes.
Yes. So,
I mean, they really don't have any choice. I mean, that's procedure.
mm-hmm.
They don't get to suspend procedure. And again, I'm sure it was one of those cases where someone had to go into his office and say, Mr. Trump, I know that you tweeted that you will not be doing X, Y, and Z, but I'm here to tell you that actually you have to. Sorry. Stop tweeting. Because I really think that there's a person that's employed by the White House for that specific job.
What, to just say stop tweeting?
No, to just go in there and say, Mr. President, I know that you tweeted this, but we can't actually do that, and here's why. And I've said that for months. I know that that is one specific person's job at the White House, and I would love to know who it is.
Well,
Because I need to buy that man a whiskey, or woman, that man or woman, they need a whiskey,
yeah,
a
probably.
double.
Well, the thing that goes along with this, too, one of the things that came out right away when Trump said that he wasn't going to concede and they were going to go through and fight this in court was they started to try and demonize everything and bring it back to 9/11 because in
Mhm.
2000 Al Gore also didn't concede and they took it out 34 days, wasn't it?
I don't remember. I
It
was
was
very
over a
young when
month,
that
I know
happened.
that.
Yeah, it seemed like it took forever.
But 34 days, I believe, was the number that they
Harvey
took it
says
out there.
yes.
What's that?
Harvey says yes, 34 days.
So for 34 days, it took them to try and figure out what the hell happened in Florida. And now people are trying to blame 9/11 on the fact that W, in his warmongering self, didn't get enough time with the security agencies to determine what was happening in the Middle East so that the Taliban could come together almost a year later and fly an airplane into a building.
34 days would have made a difference?
Apparently,
I find that hard to believe.
that was one of Dan O'Donnell's unhinged liberals of the day when they first started talking about this. When I drive to work every morning, that's the segment that's going on the radio, and I always listen to the AM radio on the way to work. And yeah, that's what he's doing, the unhinged liberal of the day. And when they first started talking about conceding, that was the one is, oh, well, Trump's putting the country in danger because he's not conceding because we could have another 9/11 because of this. But I do think that there is some merit to this, at least with Joe Biden being able to start the transition at this point, because just in case he does get in, Trump is wise enough and his transition team are wise enough, I think, to realize that even if he loses, we don't want America to be sitting ducks. And I don't know what's in the press security briefings because a lot of it's classified.
Hmm.
But I'm sure that Harry Legs has to go in there and figure out what is in there so all of his advisors can figure out what it is that they need to do about it. So that transition is going.
Yeah, basically Trump's comments have just been, preliminary work is fine. We don't care about that.
Mhm.
It doesn't have anything to do with the legal proceedings.
And that's fair in and of itself too. And like I said, you don't want to go into this job unprepared, even if you have Alzheimer's
Right. And
disease.
the article notes that there is a Presidential Transition Act of 1963. So again, that was probably something that the person had to run into his office and say, Mr. President, actually, we passed a law about that. You can't do that.
And we go back to that person.
1963.
So with that, they are going into the formal transition. I want to take a brief look at some of these states. God damn it, Fox News. Nobody likes you. Go away. So I want to take a brief look at some of the things that are going on in some of these states. And I want to start with Michigan. Now, where is that picture? Oh, I'm in pictures. There it is. So Gretchen Whitmer put this tweet out on Tuesday saying, "It's official. Yesterday evening, I carried out my duty to sign certificates of ascertainment recognizing a slate of Michigan electors for President-elect Joe Biden and Vice President-elect Kamala Harris. Such virtue, so brave, so wonderful." And the reason I included this when we talked about the fact that Michigan did certify this week is, do you think that there would have been this much pageantry if it had gone the other way?
Hmm. I don't know. I think I think Trump's ego would have demanded that he rub it in.
Yeah, but I don't think Gretchen would have done it.
No, definitely not her. I mean,
Yeah.
it would have been a Republican governor that did it.
Oh yeah, I'm sure that there was some like what is his name? Abbott over in Texas. I'm sure he would have done something like that.
Hmm.
Hey, make sure you do this ceremonially like this because they're so proud. I'm the greatest president, the best in the world. But I mean, just on both there, this is a reality television show at this point. You can't tell me otherwise. That's why I keep
I
saying
mean,
Federal Apprentice.
yeah, you elected a reality TV show star to be the president of the United States. What did you think was going to happen?
And then another one came right
It's
after him.
right. It's going to be like a reality TV show. Before Trump won in 2016, I said that his tenure as president was going to be like Berlusconi in Italy. And what do you know? It's basically been that.
You might have to explain that one for the plebes like me.
Oh, okay. So he was this his Berlusconi. He's an Italian media tycoon, and he was the prime minister of Italy from he had like two or three different terms, but they were non-successive. So he had one in the 90s, early in the 2000s, like 2001 to 2007 or 8 or something like that. Um, and then I think there was a third one or something. Um, but his political career has been, I mean, first of all, he was in movies, so he's an actor. He's definitely like Italian Hollywood guy. So he served 3 terms, and his whole political career was just scandal after scandal after scandal. It was sex scandals. It was parties. It was, just outrageous, outlandish things. And there have actually been pieces comparing him to Trump, um, but not before he won the election. I don't know. I don't know that I really saw anything pre 2016 or even like 2014 that compared the two of them. But um, I studied a lot of European history and European politics. And when Donald Trump was running for that was like my prevailing opinion was it's going to be like Berlusconi in America. That's what it's going to be. And it was.
Yeah, and I mean I could see that too. And I mean Barack was very much reality TV material. I mean, he wasn't a reality TV star prior to this, but you can't tell me that we didn't pay more attention to the government when we heard, well, you know what? I got a pen and a phone, and if they won't play ball with me with the Senate, then I'll make it happen anyway.
Yeah, I'll just sign an executive order, whatever.
And then all of his sycophants were out there, yay, Barack! You can't tell me that wasn't reality television. So I mean, we earned a reality TV star president because we went through Barack.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, I think it's going to get worse as we go along. This reality television show that's Washington D.C. is not over, even if they vote Trump out. It's going to get worse.
I really wish that they would do like a I really wish they would do like a Real Housewives of DC style show,
Oh
but
Jesus!
make it about like congressmen and congresswomen.
Oh
I just
Jesus!
think that would be amazing.
Ah, well, that's Michigan as of right now. Looks like there are a couple legal challenges that are still pending with that one. We talked about possibly doing another special on a weekend to talk a little bit about that. So that could be a possibility coming up in the near future. Let's move on to Georgia. And there are a couple things that are happening there. Number one, also from Fox, FBI is investigating threats against Georgia election officials amid voter fraud allegations, reports. Officials were said to include Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger. So, interestingly enough, we heard out of Michigan that the certification board, the canvassing board, was getting doxes and death threats going to them. And, hey, this is where your kids go to school here. Wouldn't it be a shame if something happened to them? And now it appears that we're seeing this in Georgia as well.
Yikes.
Would this be enough to, if this got to the Supreme Court, would this be enough to throw Georgia out in the Electoral College? Because I can't trust these results if that's actually happening.
Right. There is currently no, that I know of, no like attached affidavit on your vote
Mm-hmm.
where you are certifying that your vote has been made not under duress.
That's interesting. I didn't know that. But if they're voting under
I
duress,
think it's expected that you're voting on your own free will, but you don't personally have to certify that your vote was made fully and independently of your own volition.
yeah, I don't know. But they're going to keep doing stuff like this, and there was a general interest to try and get the president unseated, and I've been saying that for a long time. I was actually surprised they picked Biden to do the job, but there's been a lot of interest to do this, and I wouldn't be surprised if people are going out and making violent threats to go with this. I don't know what the scope of it is, but the FBI will know at some point.
Yeah.
Also in Georgia, there's Twitter got active in this one here. So this tweet popped up along with a trending hashtag that went with it. Where is that one? There it is. My VP looks like me, at Naomi's daughter tweets out hashtag write in Trump for Georgia and own the libs. Now this is a runoff election, so Trump can't be written in. You can't do write-ins for a runoff election. I found that out while I was researching into this. But that seems to be what it is that they want to do. And the hashtag that went around with this that was trending stated, "The GOP has abandoned Trump. Punish them. Write in Trump for GOP." And this is just stupidity, electioneering bullshit. And there are stupid enough MAGA people to fall for this. I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Voters generally are not that smart. I don't know why people think they are. They're not. I work elections. Talk to voters. I see all of their comments on social media all of the time. Trust me, they are not that intelligent.
Speaking of the runoff, Senator David Perdue has invited AOC to the state to campaign for his opponent. This is coming from Fox News. Republican Senator David Perdue on Tuesday invited New York Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez to come down to Georgia and campaign for his Democratic opponent. The incumbent senator, who's facing against Jon Ossoff in a heated January 5th runoff election, appeared to want to speak to the lefty congresswoman about her support of the Green New Deal, which I don't know how that plays in Georgia, and I don't know how the demographics are running in Georgia right now, honestly. I know Hollywood is starting to move some of their production over there because, well, they pay less taxes over there.
Right.
But I don't know how well the progressive agenda is going to play down there. Do you have any idea on that at all, or?
This is why political parties they all operate on a spectrum, because you're not going to find Democrats from Connecticut that have a ton in common with Democrats from New Mexico or Utah.
Mm-hmm.
They just don't. They're just they're a different kind of Democrat. They prioritize their interests differently. If you're in New Mexico or Utah and you're a Democrat, you probably care more about border security and immigration and things like that than someone in New York who might care about universal health care or criminal justice reform. So there are differences within the party per state and per region. But there's also been a lot of flight from those kinds of states to other states. There's a ton of flight from New York Everyone's leaving New York and moving out. There's a lot of that coming from California. That's why Texas is now no longer considered a safe red state. It's considered purple, which
Hmm.
is shocking. I never thought I would see purple Texas in my lifetime. I thought Texas was always going to be red. Um,
Yeah.
so I can't speak to specifically Georgia, like what Democratic voters in Georgia care about, because I haven't looked, but I don't know. I don't know that a I don't know that a congresswoman from the Bronx is going to resonate with them.
Right. And I mean, you can
That's
probably
Jimmy Carter country.
you can probably speak to the same idea here, being from a Rust Belt state yourself. I mean, Union Rust Belt Democrats are very different from coastal Democrats, and I've lived in Massachusetts. I've seen,
Indiana's in the Rust Belt.
yes,
Oh, I
Indiana's a
didn't
Union
know.
state as much as Wisconsin is.
Okay.
But Union Democrats are very different from coastal progressives. Very different. I grew up in a Union house. I know what they're looking for.
They're more moderate,
Hmm.
and they tend to be actually a little bit more socially conservative.
They're from a different time, okay?
Well, yeah, there's that too.
The same thing you always hear when somebody makes some sort of racist comment. But I mean, it's true though. A lot of
Hmm.
them didn't. I mean, they don't see. I can't say the name of the town without doxing myself because it's so small that everybody knows me over there. So somebody could go out and find me off of this. But I mean, you've never seen a transsexual person in the town that I grew up in ever. People live there, die there. They never leave. I'm one of the few people that have ever left that town, and they've never seen. They've barely seen a gay person.
I can count on I can count on two hands with fingers left over the number of people from the class above me and mine, so
Hmm.
two classes in high school. And my high school had like 1,000 people and it was very rural. Um, but not as small as some. Like my cousins, I think my cousin that's the same age as me, I think he graduated with like 68 people in his graduating class. I had more than that. We had like 200 and something.
My
But
graduating
still, I
class was
can count on,
120.
yeah, I can count on two hands with fingers left over the number of people that I know from my class and the one above mine that graduated the year before me
Hmm.
who left Indiana and went and lived somewhere else.
Hmm.
And I'm one of them.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, that's about it for me too. So these people don't see what the outside world has to bring in, and yeah,
Yeah.
the agendas are different.
Mhm. Yeah, so I don't know. I don't know what Georgia Democrats are really interested in. I do have friends in Georgia, so I could ask them. But yeah, I think Atlanta is more progressive. Um, they would probably they would probably align more closely with someone like AOC. But um, there's a lot of poverty in Atlanta and a lot of crime in Atlanta. Um, I think the mentality in an urban area that's Democrat is completely different from a rural area that's Democrat.
Hmm.
So there's those differences too.
Well, then, and speaking to the differences with this, have you seen? I know I talked a bit about it last week, but have you seen the pushes from Andrew Yang and several other prominent progressives at this point to try and get people to move from Francisco to Georgia so they can vote in the runoff?
That's not how it works.
They seem to think
Like,
legally it does. I've read the law. They
really?
legally can, but it's by a loophole. It's not by law, which I got a feeling after this election that loophole is going to get
They'll close it.
slammed fucking shut.
Oh yeah, they'll close it.
You don't you do need a voter ID to vote in Georgia, but it doesn't have to be an in-state ID. There's nothing in the law that says it has to be in-state. So as long as you can prove residency, which is a utility bill, you can vote in the Georgia election.
Hmm. Yeah, they're gonna close that loophole.
Yeah, I would definitely
I don't see that one making it to 2024 or even 2022.
well, that is Georgia at this point. My state just got done with a $3 million recount, which is $1 million more than what they charged Jill Stein Hippie Grandma. Is it Jill Stein?
Sure. Yes.
The Green Party from 2016? I feel like
Yes.
that's wrong.
Nope. It's Jill Stein.
It is Jill Stein. I was thinking Jill Green for whatever reason, but she's the Green Party candidate. They charged $1 million more than they charged to Jill Stein to do the whole state, to just do recounts in Madison and Milwaukee counties. I'm sorry, Dane and Milwaukee counties. The net that came back out of this from doing the recounts in those two was that Biden got 87 more net votes than Trump.
So 87 votes cost $3 million.
It cost $3 million to lose 87 votes.
Right.
And I mean,
But again, if the votes have been illegally cast by people who shouldn't have voted or whatever, you're really just recounting illegal votes anyway. So a recount isn't going to make a difference if
there's
you
no
can't
audit
audit
that
the
goes with it.
votes. Yeah, if you can't audit the votes and say that they were legally made, then a recount doesn't do anything.
So the legal actions have started just this afternoon in Wisconsin. They are going to push for an audit. Tony Evers has already come out and said that he is going to pressure the Supreme Court to vote against an audit in the state because he's Tony fucking Evers. And Wisconsin is up in limbo right now. They are going to be certifying the vote tomorrow, but now the court challenges are going to come up with this. So we will see what is happening out of Wisconsin. I can't believe they charged him. Well, I can believe it because they had a big interest in trying to make sure that he doesn't do anything. But $1 million more to count 2 counties than it cost to do the entire state in 2016. Because it was $2 million.
Inflation.
What's that?
Inflation.
Yeah, inflation. Have you been keeping up with this wild Pennsylvania ride?
No.
So on Friday, a press conference.
I'm just mad that I can't actually have a vacation after the election is over because the election is never freaking ending.
Yeah, you've noticed that too, huh? On Wednesday, I'm sorry, it wasn't Friday. On Wednesday, there was a court hearing in which Giuliani presented his evidence, and a circuit court judge in Pennsylvania suspended the count and the certification in Pennsylvania, and then it got up to the Third Circuit, where they promptly shot Giuliani down.
Aww.
And now this is headed to the Supreme Court. So it's certified, it's not certified, it's certified, it's not certified, now it's certified again at this point. So this will be headed to the Supreme Court, and the big talk that's been coming out of this is the fact that now there are people with an axe to grind against Joe Biden personally, and then the Democrat Party in and of itself, especially with Kamala Harris being on the ticket once again. Thank you, Kavanaugh, for that. So I'm most interested. This one is going to the Supreme Court. And I'm both interested now to see whether they hear it, first off, because they still have to decide to do that, and how they decide on that.
Right.
Thank you, America's Mayor, for that one. And the last one that I have for states, and then we're going to take a quick chat break here, Arizona. And this is also breaking today, so there's not a lot of information out there, but they also started hearings, and they were public. I listened to some of them earlier on today, as to whether or not Arizona can be certified. And the story keeps coming. It's the same story everywhere that you look. We can't certify this because, we weren't allowed to look at this. They violated the Constitution by not allowing having poll watchers in, which it appears that they do. I mean, people are signing affidavits over under threat of perjury. They're signing affidavits saying that, yes, no, I wasn't allowed to get in here. We weren't allowed to see anything. I tried to get an election, a poll watcher from Wisconsin here on across the board this past weekend, and we were going to talk about the recounts, but we wound up talking about the Great Reset instead, which was a great show, you guys. If you haven't seen this past Saturday's episode, I recommend you go and check that out. But yeah, we're sitting here and we'll see if Arizona can certify or not. So that's what I have for this.
The Supreme Court will figure it out one way or the other. But again, if the votes themselves are illegal, No recount is going to do anything.
Yeah, and I know Georgia's trying to move into. Brian Kemp was actually looking into auditing whether or not the signatures were, and there's this wild story that's popping up right now that Kemp and Raffensperger were trying to wipe the machines clean before the audit came, and I still have not been able to find a verification on that. I heard about that this morning while I was setting up Contemporary, and I've not been able to find any confirmation about this. Let's check out with the chat here, see what these guys are doing, and then we will move on and talk about the transition team and all the fun shit that's happening there. Where did I leave off?
It's a ways up.
Yeah, I see that. 12/12. That was where I left off here. Harvey with her birthday was 12/12. Do you want to catch up with these guys here?
Hold on. I don't think I've gone that far yet.
Yeah, there's a lot.
I'm still scrolling.
When I get my new computer with a sounder board, I'm going to get the Jeopardy music for when we're doing this on air.
There we go. Okay. Oh yeah. Harvey said here in Cali they didn't ask for my ID just to verify name and address. Ron commented on my no other choice comment. It seems almost like mail-in ballots were a maneuver instead of no other choice. 99% survival rate on the virus. They created panic, constant media droning on about people dying. So I think I sent this to you last week, but there was a Reuters article that said that the second wave of COVID is 30% less fatal than the initial wave. So if you're combining both of them to figure out what the survival rate is, they're kind of two different viruses at this point.
Yeah.
So if the 99% survival rate is for both of them combined, it's kind of misleading. It is very survivable, but so is the flu unless you are in a risk category. But yes, I reiterated that voters are motivated by fear and not logic. Ron did mention the poll watchers and poll worker testimonials about what they saw as fraud. Harvey agrees. Perfect storm. We don't care about spelling, apparently. Yeah, lots of talking about every vote must be counted, but what they mean is every vote that was cast illegally at the last minute by fraud will be counted. Lots more talk about that. Ron says there's not going to be any overthrow, just a peaceful dissolution of the union. I don't know about that. We tried that once and it didn't go over so well.
No, that it did not. And then Abraham Lincoln suspended habeas corpus. That bastard.
We got more tyranny. Shocking.
Well, when you try to take a shot at the king, you
Right.
best not miss.
Birkenoff says his trust in the vote is under 10%.
No, so he trusts more than I do.
He said under 10%. What's yours? Under 5%?
Mm-hmm.
Well, technically
At this
his could be
point.
under 5%.
Fair point.
Harvey making a couple of comments about Alyssa Milano, the lady that sacrificed her young for fame.
Ugh.
Yeah. She's a gross human being, just in general.
She
Ron
was my
says he
least
doesn't see
favorite on
any
Charmed.
he doesn't see any success for a third-party candidate ever now that 50% of the public is sucking on the government teat.
Representative-elect
only good thing with Biden is that the
who represents.
Goddamn autoplay. That one wasn't even Fox.
The only good thing with Biden is that the destruction of the country will possibly go full speed if they pass any of the bills. I don't know. I think Biden's kind of neutered, so I don't know that that's going to happen.
Do you think Corn Pop did it?
Maybe.
Did you catch my cold open on, I think it was Tuesday morning? But yeah, it was right after they announced the GSA. The cold
No,
open I did
what?
for Contemporary. I just said, well, okay, they announced that they're going to do the GSA overturn, or the GSA transition. And I played that clip, the Hairy Legs clip.
Mhm.
And I said, this man is within a breath of the nuclear football, and that should scare the shit out of you.
It's true. Talk about my comments about the flight from New York and California, people voting the same policies that drove them out of their state in the first place.
Yeah.
Harvey and Ron are both on the same page about that. Ron doesn't believe it was only 87 more votes.
I believe it was 128 for Biden and like 45 for Trump was what they found in the recount. So Biden netted 87 more votes.
Right. Either way, if it's not thousands, it doesn't matter, honestly, because it's not enough to change the outcome. Especially since I don't know if that's true in Wisconsin, but at least in a lot of other states, the electoral votes go to the person who won the popular vote. So it'd have to be thousands or hundreds of thousands to change the outcome.
Mm-hmm. Well, an interesting one that goes along with that conversation is Seawall brought up on election night. We were talking about this and how different the election map would look if every state got 2 votes, like if they did it per representative region. They got 2 votes that went to the winner of the state popular vote to represent the senators, and then the votes went by congressional district instead of statewide for the rest of the votes.
Yes. Maine and Nebraska do that.
Yes.
And it's a good model because it's more representative.
Yeah.
But also, Maine and Nebraska have smaller districts because they don't have as much population as some other states do.
Mm-hmm.
And in a state like New Hampshire, I can't remember what the number is, but they have a very large House of Representatives at the state level, or
Mm-hmm.
like their state rep. Their state rep house is huge because they have a state rep for every 5,000 residents or something like that. So every state rep district is 5,000 residents.
Wow,
So you
Manchester's
can,
fucking huge.
yeah, so
Like
you
that.
could win. I don't remember the number. I really don't. So I'm definitely wrong. I'm just guessing. But the point is the state rep districts are so small in New Hampshire that you can win a state house district with like 2,500 votes. It's not hard. Like your district is very small. You can easily go knock all of the doors in your district when you're running for office.
I believe you have achieved a fan over in the live chat, and he's very poetic. I will say that. Gross, but
What?
poetic. I'm at the
sorry,
end
I
right now,
missed
so.
Yikes.
All right, we will circle back with the rest of this. So I think we're just going to power through with the rest of this itinerary here, and then we'll circle back for the live chat at the end here. So let's get to it. So let's talk a bit about the transition. Now, I mentioned some names on last week's show when I was flying solo of some of the people, but for the most part, it does very much appear. Wait, I want to touch on one thing before we get into this. Before we get into the cabinet picks, I want to talk about what the news is going to be for the next 4 years if Biden does wind up getting himself asterisked in at this point. Because
It's gonna be all warm fuzzies like it was for Obama.
yeah, I mean, there's going to be dogs in the White House again, don't you know?
And a cat.
And a cat.
Isn't that wonderful?
Except I think one of the dogs might be working for Kamala at this point here. So, from the New York Post, Joe Biden fractures foot, needs a walking boot. President-elect Joe
Already?
Biden fractured his foot while playing with one of his dogs and will need to wear a walking boot for several weeks as a result, his doctor said on Sunday. So
Already?
apparently he
Really?
slipped into
This is what we're going with?
Yes. Yes, it is.
I cannot. He will be in a wheelchair before year one is over.
I wish I had known you were going to say that because I've got the meme. It's in the meme competition in our Discord server of Kamala pushing him in the wheelchair off the cliff. It's
I
actually in there
posted
three
that one before.
times.
We did it, Joe. We won the election. Someone commented on that at one point in time was like, why is he still smiling on the way down? It's because he's oblivious.
Yes. Oh my goodness. The x-rays show no obvious fracture, but a subsequent CT scan confirmed hairline small fractures of President-elect Biden's lateral and intermediate cuneiform bones, which are in the midfoot. So he twisted his ankle and he broke his foot, and now he's got to be in a walking boot. And the dog, named Major, is sitting over there thinking, God damn it, Kamala was going to give me a treat. I got to do this better next time. God damn it.
I think that's the one that he just rescued, the German Shepherd. It's a cute dog. It's a really cute dog.
It is. I'm actually looking at him in the New York Post article because they've got him pictured with. He didn't just rescue it. This was in 2018. He rescued this one. They were pictured together. But I mean, I'm not a big fan of German Shepherds, but this one I would make an exception for. That one is that's an adorable one.
They're very cute.
I am more of a bulldog person, but I would definitely home this particular German Shepherd. He looks good. So yeah, that's what we're gonna get for the next 4 years if he gets asterisked in.
The Wall Street Journal published an article this morning, and the headline says, "Media treat Trump's team like dogs, Biden's like puppies." That's basically what it's going to be for the next 4 years.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, the media has no credibility at this point, which is why I'm hoping that new media takes off. And like I said, at some point, Freedom Scoop puts the Daily Wire out of business, so we can be raised up enough that we can do this kind of stuff. But I mean, a guy can dream, can't he?
Right, of course.
Let's talk a bit about the cabinet now and the sewage truck backing up to refill the swamp, which never got drained, but at least some of the water came out of it. So Rubio has called Biden's national security team polite and orderly caretakers of America's decline. Senator Marco Rubio suggested on Tuesday that he would oppose confirmation of President-elect Joe Biden's national security team, presaging the first sign of potential Senate battles to come if Republicans maintain control of the Senate. Rubio said Biden's selections will be polite and orderly caretakers of America's decline. And, I mean, the war hawks are going back in. As if
Congress hasn't been one for decades?
Yes, exactly.
I'm sorry. Are you new here?
I don't know what to say to that. You have caught me completely by surprise at this point.
I'm tweeting that.
I'll send you the link for the article so you can attach it. Well, I mean,
I'm tagging Rubio in it too.
Yeah, the Warhawks are coming. They're coming back in, and they're getting ready
to go back. They never left. They're still in Congress.
Well, yeah, they're still in Congress.
They're still in the Senate. It doesn't matter.
That's true, but that was one of the nice things that came about with the Trump presidency, in spite of all the bad tweets that he did.
It did it, though.
We didn't start a new one, though. These guys are getting ready to start a new one.
He did, though.
What new war did he start?
Well, okay, it's not new, but that lovely historic peace deal. Mm-hmm. Please.
Have you read that?
Between the UAE and Israel.
Have you read that?
Yes, I read it. My big critique of it was that no country in the Middle East would ever sign a peace agreement unless there was foreign aid, military weapons, or business investments, economic investments in their country. They would never do that because war is a big business in the Middle East. People make a lot of money off of it. What happened? What happened like 2 weeks ago? Trump approved a deal to sell $26 billion worth of military equipment to the country that signed the Abraham Accords, the UAE, who has been bombing Yemen for years.
That's interesting because Yemen is also on the peace deal. I found it interesting. I found it interesting the fact that Saudi Arabia and most of the rest of the Middle East got into this because, I mean, that's kind of like because you saw the clause in there that says that
If
they
they
can't
think they
provide
can get a
aid to,
paycheck out of it, they'll sign the peace agreement. But
but they can't
as
provide aid
they,
to Iran, which means that they can't let Iran use their land for military maneuver.
Mhm,
He just put a big fence between Israel and Iran. Israel and
right,
Persia, you stay on this side, you stay on this side.
right. But it
But
doesn't
yes, I
matter
understand.
because somebody's gonna break the peace deal when they don't get what they want,
They are.
right? Trump Trump made that deal
Hmm.
fully expecting to win this election in a landslide. He had it in the bag. This was in August, September. He had it in the bag. Joe Biden was in a basement. He wasn't doing any campaign appearances. He was barely doing interviews. And Trump was having massive rallies all over the country and claiming that he was going to win by a landslide. And everything pretty much looked at that time like he was going to win by a landslide. So he signed these peace deals thinking that he had enough time to, approve these other deals that kind of were going along with the peace deal. Again, it's not going to say it explicitly in the peace deal. We're signing this because we would like X, Y, and Z. But a couple months later, oh, look, an arms deal. Oh, look, a trade deal. Oh, look, this. Oh, look, we're lifting sanctions. I wonder why. Well, it all goes back to the peace deals. They got something out of it. So he got all those countries to sign that peace deal, thinking he had enough time to work all these other deals. Well, now Biden might put a stop to that, which means that whole peace deal will be blown out of the water because it was based on money, not on a true desire for peace.
Oh yeah, and of course Ilhan and Rashida are already out there yelling, "You must end these peace deals right away.
Hmm.
They're too good to Israel.
Right.
The sworn enemy, Israel."
And you can't have a peace deal involving Israel and not involving Palestine and think that somehow they're just going to magically get along and make it work. Because we've tried that for a while now.
Hmm.
And what happens? It doesn't ever work.
It doesn't. That one may be
So
going until the end of time. That may be the cause
any,
of the end of
any
time.
peace deal that does not take into account the Palestinian point of view, however bad or good you may see it as, it's never going to work because they're never just going to play nice.
And neither is Netanyahu.
Right, exactly. Street goes both ways.
What is nice, though, coming back out of this, is we will get to hear the words of Thurston Howell III again in a Biden cabinet. John Kerry. Yeah, he's back. So, yeah, Rubio is definitely speaking out about this at places, as you've pointed out, that he shouldn't be speaking out against. Rashida is also eager into this one. Rashida Tlaib accused of anti-Semitism.
I
No way.
really dislike her.
After lashing out over Biden's Secretary of State pick. Let me
I
see.
really dislike her.
Few Democrats, it seems, responded to this selection of Anthony Blinken with enthusiasm, according to the AP, which indicated Monday that Blinken is likely to take up the Obama-era foreign policy strategy, a strategy
Ooh, that was a
progressive
disaster.
A strategy progressives like Squad members Representative Rashida Tlaib apparently believe is too focused on the United States' only Democratic ally in the Middle East. So yeah, she wants to get rid of Blinken because he's too nice to Israel, as I said. So this is going to be a fun one. If he gets asterisked in, this is going to be a fun one to see, and it's just going to put a bigger schism in the Democratic Party.
Yes. But honestly, I think the establishment Democratic Party would get rid of her in a heartbeat if they could because she's too problematic.
Oh yeah, the whole squad is going away if they get back in.
They're just going to neuter them.
Do you think Pelosi gets back in? I know she won her
Yes,
election, but do you think
because
she's speaker
because
again?
I think her um, Pelosi is like McConnell. I mean, she's his counterpart on the opposite side of the aisle, basically. And the reason why you don't see Mitch McConnell and all of these, you know, super old school GOP guys coming out swinging for Trump is because they know that they outlast presidents.
Hmm.
Their careers are much longer than a president's career. President gets 2 terms. Congress and Senate, unlimited.
Hmm.
So they have 30 plus, 40 plus year terms. President has 8. So when they get a president that's in their own party that they really don't like working with, they don't usually come right out and hate him, like very obviously, but they don't take up for him when he's in dire straits like he is right now. Mitch McConnell's not coming out and saying, this election was a fraud, recount everything, audit every state. I'm sure that's what Trump would want him to do, but he's not doing that. The establishment GOP doesn't give a rat's ass about Trump. The base cares about Trump. So all these senators and representatives are only going to care about Trump and take up for him when it is advantageous in their district to do so, when they're trying to win an election. Same with Democrats. So Nancy Pelosi gets back in because, one, her district is too brainwashed to vote for anyone else. She's too entrenched in that district to get voted out. And it's the same deal. She's been there forever. They won't get her out until she's ready to go.
Hmm. Well, and I mean, on McConnell's case of this, McConnell is also salivating his fucking turtle drool, thinking about the fact that he's getting Raytheon money again once we start a new war over there.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And he and Crenshaw, I mean, it's obvious on both of them too. They are just drooling over the fact that they will be going back over there to the Middle East and starting something new.
Yep.
On the immigration front, Biden says immigration bill overturning Trump's executive orders will be priorities in the first 100 days. Biden tells NBC that he'll seek a bill that provides a pathway to citizenship for 11 million undocumented people. I call bullshit right now
Yeah,
because
I call bullshit too.
there are too
It's not going to
many
happen.
there are too many corporations that are making too much money being able to underpay people under the table because they're illegal and they can't file.
Not only that, but I mean, like, Obama's the one who built the cages at the border to begin with. So Biden rolling back to that point,
Hmm.
I mean, how far back are we really going? Like, we're like taking a half step back
Yeah.
from what we are at now. So it's the same immigration, basically, but more warm and fuzzy for the Democrats to feel good about.
What'll be nice though is that the news media will stop reporting on the cages again. They'll still be there. They'll just stop reporting on it. They'll still be there. They'll still be in use. So they will still be brutal and barbaric, but we won't have to hear about it for 4 years. And yeah, there's that. There's the permanent underclass thing. There's the permanent perpetual problem to be solved, and the fact that people like Joe Biden love fucking slave labor. They love slave labor.
Hmm. Yeah.
And these people have no other choice. They have to sit there and wait and listen to people promise that they're going to get something again. They're a continuous cudgel against Republicans, and then once again, nothing will happen, and they will still be working for subpar wages for a globalist corporate oligarch. So I don't believe for a second he's going to try and legalize 11 million people. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on Michael Flynn, because that was an interesting one that came up this week, and all of a sudden, everybody on Twitter became a legal expert in the Fifth Amendment. So
Say that again.
I said, I'm curious to see what it is that you think about the Flynn pardon because that happened this week, and then suddenly everybody on Twitter became an expert on the Fifth Amendment.
So I didn't think he was actually getting pardoned. I thought he was just getting his sentence commuted.
According to the tweet, he is getting pardoned, but since Mr. Trump is not a legal government scholar by any stretch of the imagination, he might not know the difference. There is a distinct possibility of that. CNN says Trump announces pardon for Michael Flynn in a tweet. President Trump announced in a tweet Wednesday that he has granted his first national security advisor, Michael Flynn, a full pardon, wiping away the guilty plea of the intelligence official. So according to CNN, it is a full pardon, which according to the legal experts on Twitter means that, well, he has accepted his guilt then because he accepted the pardon and he can't be protected by the Fifth Amendment anymore, so we're going to go after him for Russia. Oh my God. They're still fucking doing Russia. But what's your take on this one?
I don't know. I mean, it's he said, he said. First it was I lied to the FBI, then it was no, I didn't. I mean, who really knows? Like, I guess I care more about the truth of it than what happened afterwards, I guess. Like what caused that? What caused that situation to occur rather than the fallout from it?
Yeah, and I mean,
Because if he legitimately was pressured and should never have been prosecuted in the first place, then the pardon is warranted. But if he did lie and now it's just this Trump cover up and trying to pardon a buddy, then no, I'm not okay with that.
yeah, I mean, we saw commutations and pardons at the end of a presidential term. We saw that all the way, but you knew it was coming no matter what the outcome of it was. You knew that this one was going to come, and now people have turned their eyes towards Manafort because there's talks about Manafort getting pardoned too, which means that the state of New York is once again salivating over the fact that they want to put Manafort in prison if he gets a full pardon off of this.
Right.
I see a lot of inklings of persecution that come along with these pardons, and the fact that the left in this country right now doesn't want to see any Trump ally live a normal life again. I mean, we saw the lists. We see the fact that now lower courts want to take up these cases. This is Gestapo gulag kind of shit. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, and honestly, I don't think that anybody in Washington that has that kind of a job is truly innocent of any of these things.
Oh, no. It
I
takes a
think it's
certain kind of person to
definitely
seek power.
right. So I definitely think that he's not the only one that does this. He's just the one that got caught.
Hmm.
And it's all going to go back to, I mean, they're going to keep tying it back to Russia. The Republicans are going to keep tying Biden to Ukraine. And we're going to hear about this going forward every single election cycle, except they're just going to change which country it is. It's going to be Venezuela next time. Or, God, I don't know, Germany. Who knows?
Yeah, I felt dirty when I was in DC this past summer. And I was only in there for like a couple nights. One night before we left for Orlando and one night after we left for Orlando. I don't understand how Steven lived there for as long as he did. He's finally out of there now, but I felt dirty. I really did. I couldn't, and I barely saw any of it, but it's just, there's so much crap that goes through that town. So, yeah. Well, good on Flynn at least for getting out and hopefully spend time with your family before they try to nail you to the cross.
Right.
Because I think that's coming. All right, let's talk a bit about COVID here, and I'm going to start once again by something that I pulled right from your Twitter feed. So, up on the screen here, I have Lucas, repeat after me. You cannot question me without my mother present. You want to walk
Yes.
us? You want to walk us through this article and what this means?
So I guess, so it sounded worse than it was. When I initially made that tweet, I thought that they were questioning the kids because they were wanting to get the parents in trouble for having the gatherings. I mean, they still could want to do that, but technically their reasoning for doing it was to determine whether or not that child needed to quarantine at home for 2 weeks afterwards. Um, Not necessarily for the safety of the other kids, but for the safety of staff because they are older. They're probably in a risk category. They might have comorbidities. They might have, other things. And kids also can get it and can be at risk for it, especially if there are immunocompromised children in the school building. But yeah, my comment was just basically, I don't think that school administrators have a right to question children about the goings on at home if it doesn't put the child in immediate danger of like violence. And but you cannot question a minor legally without their parent or I think a guardian of some sort. It's like a state guardian that's a child. I think it's called a child advocate present.
Well, it's interesting because I heard this from the other side too, and yes, it is out there that Phil Scott wants to question to see if they have to quarantine these kids because they've been
I
in a
don't know why
large
they
gathering.
I don't know why they wouldn't just give the kids the option to quarantine.
Yeah,
Like, why not just give the parents the option to say, "Hey, we're going to have Thanksgiving dinner. That means we're going to quarantine our kids afterwards. So we're going to do virtual school for 2 weeks and just notify the school and keep the kids home." Now, not everybody has that opportunity or option because they might work a job where they can't take 2 weeks off and homeschool their kids. Or if the kids were exposed or something, they wouldn't be able to find someone to watch them. But again, it's like with great freedom comes great responsibility. Like if your kid goes to a public school, you have to abide by the rules of the public school. So if you don't like the rules of the public school, don't go to public school anymore.
yeah, no, and you were talking about secular homeschooling too when all this came out.
Mhm.
The thing that
Yeah, but
goes,
that has nothing to do with the school district that he's in. I absolutely love the school district that my child goes to,
Mhm.
but they're also like in the top 5 in the entire state, and it's a public school, and the ranking is based on public and private. So
Mhm.
among public and private schools in Indiana, he's in one of the districts that's in the top 5. And I virtual schooled him last spring, and they did a really great job. I was not upset with how they did it. They did change it they did give us the option at the beginning of this school year to choose virtual learning or in school. But if you chose virtual, it was not like virtual schooling that we did in the spring. The spring was 3 days a week of instruction, one optional day of STEM activities, and one day off. And the 3 days that they were doing schooling, they didn't have to do any of their extra classes. So like music, art, library,
Welcome
obviously
back,
computer
President Trump.
typing class. They didn't do any of that. Um, so if you added up all of the time that the teachers allotted, at least for my son, for his age, he was in first grade. If you added up all the time that they expected you to be instructing your child, it was literally 2 hours a day.
Mhm.
So I was like, we can do that. So we did that. Well, then this fall, if you chose virtual learning, they told you it would be 5 hours, 5 days a week. And I was like, not doing that to my second grader. Sorry.
Right.
He's not old enough to do that.
Well, and one of the other things that went along with this, I saw the article that you posted, and then Styx Hexenhammer 666, who is a native Vermonter, also had
Mhm.
something to weigh in on that too, because that is his governor, and he still has his house in Rutland. He's stuck in the Netherlands right now because of European travel restrictions, but he still has his house in Rutland. So
Hmm.
that is his governor, and he had to weigh in, and he brought up an interesting point that I didn't think about until after the fact. But that was if the parents are going to question the kids, how often did you want to be in school when you were
Never.
that age? Yeah. Hey, I get 2 weeks off where I don't have to come here every day. If I just go and snitch. And even if they didn't have, like, even if they did quarantine and it was just the immediate family for Thanksgiving dinner, what's to stop that kid from coming up and saying, "Oh no, no, we had a big gathering. I got to stay home for a couple of weeks. Whatever should I do?"
Hmm. Right.
And then you're sitting at a lawsuit because under no fault of their own because the parents followed the rules of the state. Now somebody's got to take a day off, lose out on
Right.
a day's wages to
Hmm.
sit with the kid at home, especially if it's a younger child.
Right.
So I see a lot of problems with this, but yeah, for the most part, yeah, nobody should be questioning the children unless the parent is
But
there.
that's how they always get you. They always make it sound like it's completely innocent. Like, well, we just want to make sure that
Hmm.
if they need to quarantine, that they're going to quarantine.
Hmm.
Okay. But are they then reporting the parents to DCS and saying that,
Hmm.
well, these parents deliberately put their child, in a dangerous situation by having a large group of people over? What about that? So it has all kinds of other implications, even though on its face it sounds perfectly reasonable. Like, sure, of course, you would want to know if a kid needed to quarantine after getting together with a bunch of people for the holidays.
All right. Speaking of things that sounded different from the headlines than what they were, a lot of people were talking about this past week that the Pennsylvania governor who required COVID masks to be worn indoors bans alcohol sales the night before Thanksgiving. Now, he actually
That's
didn't
dumb.
he actually didn't ban alcohol sales completely. It was you couldn't serve alcohol in person. Like you couldn't have a bar open essentially the night before Thanksgiving, traditionally known as Blackout Wednesday, when all the college kids came back, got drunk with all their old high school buddies,
Hmm.
made out and screwed each other to no end, and then went to Thanksgiving hungover. So in that case, I could see maybe why you would not want to do that, but I still think it's an excessive thing either way, and that's a huge revenue shot for most of your local taverns. But did you see anything on this one?
Um, I did briefly see it, but I didn't read details about what it meant. Um, but yeah, again, this is government picking which businesses succeed and which ones fail.
Which the government has absolutely no business doing at this point. I talked about because
Exactly.
there was one that I didn't think made the cut for the week, but it was down towards the end where I think it was a Kentucky coffee shop that had their business license pulled over the fact that they weren't requiring masks to be worn indoors. They suspended
Yep.
the business license over that. And I said this
Hmm.
morning on Contemporary when I was reading about it, it was, you know what? Hey, I think it was called Brewers or something. Hey, Brewers, you have good coffee. I have money. I want coffee. You want money. That's all that business needs to be.
Right, exactly. The people that go into the establishment assume the responsibility of being there and not wearing a mask and knowing that there are other people there that are not wearing masks. It's very simple.
Yeah.
You either
Speak
wear one or you don't. The business either requires it or you don't. If you don't want to wear a mask and a business requires it, well, then shop somewhere else.
exactly. Speaking of Thanksgiving, Representative-elect Lauren Boebert out of Colorado holds a turkey funeral with 30 guests on Thanksgiving. Indoor gatherings in Colorado were limited in private residences to 10 guests, but funerals are still allowed to have up to 30.
That's
So,
hilarious. And I love it.
yeah, Lauren Boebert is based as fuck. I've been following her career right from the beginning, ever since she announced that she was running. She is based. I'm sorry, I have to fake news myself. The guest limit is 90 for a funeral.
Oh, okay.
So she had 30 at her house. She was holding a funeral for a pig and a duck as well.
Jeez. That's sad.
The 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 great household pets that we lost. We're gonna have a funeral for them, and then we're going to eat them.
That's absolutely hilarious.
That is, I thought you would appreciate that one. Ah, and speaking of unconstitutionality, in a 5-4 ruling, the Supreme Court sides with religious groups in a dispute over COVID-19 restrictions in New York. So this is the case that came up through the Supreme Court, and basically they called Andy Cuomo's edicts unconstitutional. So now you can go and worship in person, and they can't say butt fuck anything about it. But Andy himself had something interesting to say about this before the decision was made, about the sheriffs that weren't going to enforce the rulings that he put forward. Let's have a quick listen to this. This is a quick clip, but let's have a quick listen to this one. Because I think you're going to have a lot to say about it. Even if it's a short clip, you're going to have a lot more than 17 seconds of things to say about this.
You don't have the right to pick laws that you think you will enforce, and you don't enforce laws that you don't agree with, right? That's not a law enforcement officer. That's a dictator. You don't have...
Yes?
Oh no, by all means, continue.
No, he's done. That's all that I had. 17 seconds to say that law enforcement officers are dictators if they don't enforce his rules.
How very dictatorial of you.
I thought you would appreciate that one. This is New York. So, I've got one last one here on the news, and then we will do surprise stupidity, because I know we're just a touch over time at this point here. Because everybody is asking what's happening with Ghislaine Maxwell. Well, Ghislaine Maxwell has been exposed to COVID-19 this week, and now she is in isolation because she has been exposed to COVID-19. And her legal team has been complaining because, as CNBC writes, jailers interrupt Ghislaine Maxwell's sleep every 15 minutes to check if she's still breathing, lawyer says.
I think that having my sleep interrupted every 15 minutes would make me very suicidal. Or homicidal, potentially. I think I would make it one night doing that, and then I'd be ready to kill somebody.
The article outlines a lawyer for Ghislaine Maxwell Tuesday complained to a federal judge that the accused accomplice of sex criminal Jeffrey Epstein is being overmanaged in jail, which includes having her sleep interrupted every 15 minutes by guards with a flashlight checking to see whether she's still breathing. Now, it doesn't say whether they are going in and rousing her to see if she is still breathing or if they're just pointing the flashlight at her, but I mean, either way. You throw a flashlight in my eyes while I'm sleeping, I will wake up. I'm a light enough sleeper that that's going to happen, especially if it's in a situation like that where there's not supposed to be anybody around.
Right.
Do you think Ghislaine makes it to trial?
I have no idea.
It's an interesting thought experiment to go with this, but I mean, this one was completely glossed over. But she's got the COVID. She's got the commie coof. Or she's been exposed to the commie coof. She's never tested positive for it, but she's been exposed to the commie coof. And now she's in isolation, and they're checking on her every 15 minutes.
I don't know. They're doing a lot more build-up for her than they did for Epstein.
Yeah, we will see what happens with this. I'm sure that there's going to be more about this, but it won't be until she mysteriously passes away. All right, you ready to do some surprise stupidity? I got a double for you.
Yes.
All right, the first one that I have here. Where is it? Oh, it's in the pictures, not the video. That's why. This one. So this is out of my home state of Wisconsin. This came out of Milwaukee, actually. From Fox 6 News. Milwaukee man's tire stolen before Thanksgiving, replaced with a turkey.
Wait, what?
I will read that again for you. Milwaukee man's tire stolen before Thanksgiving, replaced with a turkey.
But why?
Because they wanted to hold the car up after they stole the tire. So, a man told Fox News that a tire was stolen from his vehicle and replaced with a turkey. The victim said he just moved to the north side from Nashville and he was getting ready for work days before Thanksgiving on Monday, November 23rd, when he noticed it, and he was shocked. I've never seen anything like this before, the man said. I've heard of people putting bricks, but I've never heard of a turkey underneath. I hope you enjoy that tire because you could have given that turkey to somebody who really needed it.
Aww.
And yes, I mean, if the picture is up on the screen, it is a looks like a small Hyundai with the rear tire missing and a Jenny O turkey underneath it. That's amazing. And I mean, he's absolutely right. A homeless shelter could have done a lot more with that turkey than the dude that had his car sitting on it. And you got to eat it at some point too, because it's thawed by that point too. I mean, it's been warm up here all week. So the thing, it's not frozen anymore. You got to heat it up, otherwise it's going to waste.
Right.
That's the nice one. Are you ready for the cringy one? The extra cringe that goes along with this.
Yes.
This was so cringy. I had to share this. So a Chinese, I believe, singer. I have no idea who this woman is. But she is apparently famous for something. Evie Kwong tweets out, "This is fan mail, and this is what it said. And if you're watching on YouTube, make sure that you're ready to go to an alternative platform, because this might get me shut down for hate speech." And I quote, "Chinky, chinky, chinky, you're so kinky. Chinky, 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 your tears is stinky. Eating rice and mice, your hair is lice." And it gets worse.
Ooh, where is she from?
She's got Chinese characters in her Twitter handle, or her Twitter display name, so I'm not sure. I think she is Chinese. The next line says, "I hit the gong and stroke my dong. Think of your kinky, stinky, pinky, dinky pussy. You're going to get..."
No, why? No, we do not need to continue with this.
Okay.
I have heard enough.
I'm going to say hoax hate on this one. I don't think that... I mean, I've dealt with racists. They don't talk like that. That is a hoax in my eyes. I think that this is up there to go for attention, and I mean, I'll eat my hat if I'm wrong, but this was that was cringy. And I looked through the comments as I saw that one up there, and it does look like a lot of people were agreeing with me that this was potentially hoax. What do you think? Hoax or legit?
I think potentially hoax. I think there's very few people in the world that would do that and be serious about it.
Or would talk like that. That was the one that got me, was the fact that, yeah, nobody talks like that.
Right.
I feel dirty saying that again. And I read that on Contemporary, too. All right, that's all that I got here. Let's see what the live chat's got to say, and we will head on out of here. Where did we leave off?
Way up there.
Way up there again. We've got Shakespeare the Simp in here. That was awesome. Disgusting, but awesome.
Yikes.
Aimless Gamer says, "Biden's hands just look big on 12-year-old girls."
Ooh.
McConnell Smuggles Coke says, "Dog always tastes better boiled alive." Yeah, they're dirty in there today. Ron's got the sticker party. Let's see. Aimless would vote for me, apparently. I got one vote. Harvey says, "Look, the cages are a bit extreme, but it's estimated that 1/3 of those children don't even belong to those adults, and they're being brought in for trafficking." I've heard reports on that. I've heard reports as up to half of them. So I don't know what the exact numbers is, but I've heard a lot of reports of this. She continues, "So it's either let them all go, or let them all through, put them in jail, or separate them, and at least determine which ones were freaking kidnapped." Got more stickers in here. Aimless is out of here. Good night, Aimless. McConnell says, "If you didn't like school, you're lying."
I did not like school. I
Yeah.
legitimately did not like it.
I did everything that I could to actively get out of there, and I still had a 3.8 GPA when I graduated. Giga Dope Man says, being an American-born Hispanic, I realize how both parties buy out billions to Big Brother, so as the immigration for Spanish people will always go up and down. Like they knew pandemic, they really wanted to get rid of Hispanics because so many gang members and undocumented people would not have been good. And I think that's it. So we're going to head out of here for the night here. Thanks everybody who came back and chatted with us. Ron, Giga, McConnell Smuggles Coke, Aimless, Harvey McLeod, Silentcaster, everybody else who is in there whose names I didn't get to. Thanks everybody who came back and chatted with us and kept us honest, kept us on point, and kept us on topic. I will be back here in the morning for more contemporary. My lovely co-host will be back here next week for more of the Red Net Show, because if it is Monday night, it is the Red Net Show. Thanks, and if you are just catching up with us now, and want to catch the full show, you can catch us back on demand over on YouTube and over on BitChute.com. Go and check us out. Both of those are linked in the description below for all videos. Or if you'd rather take us on the go, you can find us over on the audio platforms: iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Spotify, not SoundCloud. Go over there and check us out over there. Pick up some of that. And lastly, as I said at the top of the show, head on over to freedomscoop.com, where you can check out the archives for our show, along with the archives for The Breakdown with Birkenhoff, The Daily Ignoramus, The Freckles and Brit Show, The Generational Gap, and The R-Rated Conservative. Come on over there, pick up some of our swag, help us support great creators, and also check out Gun Mom Fashion. Go out and pick up some of those t-shirts. They help us out over here as well. And lastly, as I always say, never take the words of bloggers, podcasters, or journalists as gospel. Find all the facts and draw your own conclusions. Elaine, lead them out of here.
Have a great week. It's good to be back.
Take care, everyone.